So this is section 2.3 in quadratic form, and we're looking at u substitution. And u substitution is where the u in our quadratic setup here is being replaced by the u. So let's do an example. So we have x minus 2 minus 8x minus 1 plus 15 equals 0. So what do I do first? Well, I tend to always label my A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. And then I'll find what I'm going to substitute. So we're going to say let u equal x to the minus 1. So that's our B position. Or we can write it as 1 over x. So x to the minus 1 is also 1 over x. Great. Now we want to put the equation that we have here, the quadratic formula or equation, into the u substituted form. So that means I'm going to do u squared minus 8u plus 15 equals 0. And I'm going to put a 1 in front here as well, because technically if there's no number in front, I'm just going to make that 1. So A is 1, B is 8, negative 8, and C is plus 15. So we could either factor or substitute, not substitute, but use the quadratic equation. I'm going to use the quadratic equation in this example, but you could definitely factor it very easily. So A equals 1, B equals negative 8, C equals 15. So now I'm just going to use my quadratic equation. Well, what is that again? Minus B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC over 2a. So my b is negative 8, so I have to make sure, because remember in the equation we have a negative, so we have to put b negative 8 plus or minus negative 8 squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. So a is just 1, so it's going to be 1. Now, if I have two negatives, I have a positive. So that means I'm going to get plus 8 here. And then when I square a negative number, what happens? Well, the negative goes away. So we get 64. And then if I look at my math, so I don't have any other negatives on this side. So I'm just going to know that I'm going to have a negative result. So 4 times 1 is 1. And 4 times 15, we know is going to be 60. So we know, so again, negative 4 times 1 equals 4, and then 4 times 15. Negative 4 times 15 gives me minus 60 over 2. So when we subtract, we know that it's going to become 8 plus or minus 4 square root 4. Remember, the square root is there over 2. And then we know the square root of 4 is 2, so 2 over 2. And then we need to find our 2u solutions here, because we have a plus or minus. So remember, when you take a square root of something, you have a plus or minus in front of it. So, and then also it's from the original equation for the quadratic formula. So we have to do 8 plus 2 over 2 and 8 minus 2 over 2. So 8 plus 2 is 10 over 2 is 5. And then 8 minus 2 is what? Well, that's 6 over 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we know our two solutions for our x. So our x1, I'll just make this x1 is 5, and our x2 is 3. So we found our two x's. But are we done? No, because we have to find, because we substituted for the u, we have to find what the x is. So technically, I can't write this as x, right? Because that's my u value. So we found where our u is using u substitution, so I cannot write it that way. So we can't leave it like that. So we have to write it as u1 is 5 and u2 is 3. So that's why. Now we have to find our x values. So that can't be my solution. So x, well, we have to find what it is. So what's our x? So we have to go back to the original here. And we have to do, we're going to use this form. So we have to let u equal to 1 over x. So we have to do 5 equals 1 over x, and 3 equals 1 over x. So now we can simplify this. Well, how do I simplify it? So I'm going to make the 5 be over 1 and the 3 over 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, let's do the first one. So 1 times 1 is just going to be 1, and then we get 5x. 1 times 1 is 1 equals 3x. So then what do I do to get x by itself? I just divide by 5. So that means here my x is 1/5. And then if I do the same again, 3 divided by 3, so x equals 1/3. So that's how we get our solutions for these two. Okay, so let's do another problem. So what's our x? 2x 1/3. So that's how we get our solutions for these two. Okay, so let's do another problem. So let's do 2x negative 2 plus 7x to the minus 1 minus 4 equals 0. So again, I'm going to let u equal x to the minus 1 or 1 over x. Same thing again. So what I need to do first is I'm going to label my A, B, and C. And then I want to substitute for u. So substituting for u, it's going to be u squared. So 2u squared plus 7u minus 4 equals 0. So now we've substituted. Now I'm going to label my A, B, and C. So A is 2, B is 7, C is negative 4. So now we're ready to do the quadratic equation. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So minus b is 7 plus negative 7 plus or minus 7 squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. So we're just using that same setup that we did in the last problem. So it would be minus 7 plus or minus, well, 7 squared is 49. And then for the next part, I'm going to do the math. So I have two negatives here. So I have a negative here and a negative here. I'm going to do this first. Well, what do we know about a negative times a negative? A negative times a negative. So negative 4 times negative 4 is going to give me 16. And then 16 times 2 is going to give me 32. So now we have it set up for this part. So it's a positive 32. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So now we add those together. 49 plus 32 is 81 over 4. Well, what's the square root of 81? We know that is 9. So then when we add those, so we use minus 7 plus 9 over 4 and minus 7 minus 9 over 4. What do we get? So we're going to get, in the end, well, let's do it. Minus 7 plus 9 is 2. So we get 2 over 4. And then minus 7 minus 9 is what? Oh, it's minus 16 over 4. Well, then we know this is going to be minus 4. And then if I reduce this, I get 1/2. So we get 1/2 and 4, minus 4. So we have our two u's, u1, u2. But we're not done yet. We need to go back and see, okay, my u, we were letting u equal to 1 over x again. So we do the same thing. So 1 over x equals 1/2. And then 1 over x equals -4. So now what I do is I want to simplify. So I want to, again, I can cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, I get 2 equals x, or 1x, divide by 1, divide by 1. We get 2, so x equals 2. And then if we do the same thing here, over 1, so cross multiply, -4x equals 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, -4 times x is -4x, divided by -4. So you get x equals -1/4. So this is how you do u substitution. Now, let's do an example where the u is not letting it equal to 1 over x. Let's do an example where it's just normal. Let me find an example of this. Here's a good one. So we'll do an example from the textbook. So we'll do c squared minus 5 squared minus 3 c squared minus 5 minus 4 equals 0. So the same thing, we let u equal our b variable, which our b variable here is the z squared . So we have to use that. So let u equal this. Now I'm going to do my u substitution. So it'd be u squared. There's no variable in front here, so there's just going to be 1. Minus 3u minus 4 equals 0. Okay. So for this one, I can see that it's really easy to factor. So we're going to factor. So I'll make our x. I want a number that multiplies to 4 and a number that adds to -3. So this is adding. So that means the two numbers that add are 4 and 1, but my 4 needs to be negative to get those two results. So that means it's going to be u minus 4 and u plus 1 equals 0. So when we do the math, u minus 4 equals 0 and u plus 1 equals 0. Move the number to the other side. So now u is going to be plus 4 and then u is going to be minus 1. So we have our two u's. Super easy. You can do the quadratic as well, but this one was super easy to factor. So then we have to go back and we have to find our x values. So we let u, so 4 is equal to z squared minus 5. And -1 is equal to z squared minus 5. Now I want my z squared to stay positive, so I'm going to leave that guy there, but I'm going to move this 5 to the side, and I'm going to do the same here. So it's going to be 4 plus 5 equals z squared, so that means 9 equals z squared. Take the square root of both sides. So then what will happen is when you take the square root of both sides, it means you're going to get a plus or minus result of 3. Because the square root of 9 is 3. And then my other z, when you move it over, you get -1 plus 5 equals z squared. So -1 plus 5, well, what do we get? -1 plus 5 is 4. I take the square root of both sides. So z is equal to 2, plus or minus 2, because remember when you take the square root, you get a plus or minus result. So it means our answer is z equals plus or minus 3 and z equals plus or minus 2.